Hello and welcome to Everyday Lessons Every Day. This is the podcast for anyone who wants to learn, grow, and improve. When I was going through a difficult time, I turned to self-improvement books to work on myself and my relationships. Committing to reading every day and applying the lessons I learned to my life was so effective that I was inspired to write my book, Everyday Lessons Every Day, a journey from grumpy to grateful. I believe in the power of personal development, and I want to share that with the world. To that end, I invite everyday people to share their everyday lessons and how those lessons are changing their lives for the better. This week, I sat down with Mike Papacoda, who has taken the art of visualization to a level I have not seen before. Sure, we've all heard it. Imagine yourself in the job you want. See yourself winning the big game. Believe that you will find the love of your life. And here's the thing. We all know that it's something that works. We've all heard stories about the athlete who visualized herself winning the race days before actually running and winning it. But how many of us truly practice the art of visualization? I feel so grateful to have gotten to talk to Mike, and I'm so excited to share this interview with you because he is truly a master. This is episode 41, The Power of Visualization with Mike Papacoda. Good morning, Mike. How are you?
I am doing good, David. How are you doing today?
I am so great. I'm excited to have Mike Papacoda on the old podcast.
Well, I'm excited to be here. When you reached out, I was like, yes, I get to be on David's podcast. This is going to be great. So I'm really excited.
I'm happy to hear you say you get to be on the podcast, not like, oh, I have to do David's podcast.
Right.
But I've been watching your podcast, and it's a lot of fun.
I'm really enjoying it. You know, my friend Rob and I, we've been talking about doing a podcast for years, and we were finally like, you know what? Let's just do it. Let's jump in and do it. And it has been great. So
it's fun, isn't it?
Yeah, it's a lot of fun, especially having someone to do it with. So I'm not having to do it solo. You know, we kind of bounce ideas off of each other and share stories. So
yeah, I did the first season of Everyday Lessons all by myself. It was just my thoughts on lessons that I had learned, but I have just definitely discovered this format is more fun.
Very nice.
All right. Well, why don't you tell the listeners just a little bit about who you are?
Yeah, so I'm Mike Papacoda, and I am currently a sales trainer with Cox Business. But that's just one of the many careers that I've had. I always like to try new things, but I'm really enjoying that. I've got two great kids. They're really kind of at that one's 17, the other one's 20. So almost got them, you know, where they're leaving the nest and doing their own thing. Love to travel. It's one of my passions in life is traveling and going immersing myself in experiences. And so, yeah, that's just a little bit about me, you know, but I try to really get out there and just experience life because you never know, right? You don't know how much time you've got on this planet. So you better get out there and do it now.
Or if there's going to be a lockdown for an entire year, right?
Listen, I learned how to do puzzles really well. I was looking back at my memories on my Facebook. I'm like, we did a lot of puzzles. Painted some rocks. I was like, man, all right, discovering new talents.
The puzzle industry exploded in 2020, didn't it?
Right. You couldn't find a puzzle. I was in Target the other day and I was like, look at all these puzzles. We're good to go.
All right. Well, I am super excited to hear what everyday lesson you are going to share with us. So jump right into it if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, so what I wanted to share today was the power of visualization and using that to help propel you forward to reach the goals that you have. I'm a big proponent of kind of visualizing that outcome of what the end result is going to be so that it helps to motivate you to stay on track to reach that goal. Whether it's a short-term goal or a long-term goal, I think that visualizing what it's going to be like when you get there is a key component to helping you reach that goal.
Okay, I'm a fan of this lesson. It's a classic, and it's not one that we've talked about on the podcast yet. So tell me a little bit about where you picked up the lesson. How did you learn to visualize?
Yeah, so much like you, I'm a big self-help guy, especially in my early 20s. Was trying to just find different tools that I could use to propel myself forward in my career and in my personal life. And so it's kind of a culmination of listening to people like Tony Robbins and Zig Ziglar and really just, you know, taking those ideas and using them in my own life. So maybe not specifically what they said to do, each one of them, but taking little parts. I think about even something like as simple as Caddyshack, where he tells him to be the ball, no, 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 be the ball. And just, I mean, as funny as that skit is, I mean, there's a lot of truth to, being the ball and seeing yourself making that putt and the ball going into the hole before it actually happens. So yeah, I'd say it's a culmination of things that I've learned over the years.
All right. So today's Everyday Lesson brought to you by Caddyshack.
Free plug for the Caddyshack.
Oh, I will be hashtagging Caddyshack to promote this one for sure.
Very nice.
All right. So tell me an example of how you used visualization. Wait, let me back that up. Tell me an example of how you used visualization.
Listen, I had to practice saying visualization like 5, 6 times yesterday because I was like, why am I saying this wrong? I do it all the time. So one of the first examples I have, it was there was a job that I wanted to get. I had some friends that had moved to this company, and I could just see that they were all making a lot of money. They were having a great time, and I was like, I really want to be a part of that. And so I would start out by just visualizing myself in the role and what it was going to be like, so what was it going to be like to interact with customers, what it was going to be like to interact with the people that I worked with, what was it going to be like when I would sling that bag over my shoulder that had a laptop in it and slap that BlackBerry onto my waist, what was that going to feel like? And so I would spend time immersing myself into that reality, even though it hadn't happened yet. I would spend time just imagining what's it going to feel like and what's it going to sound like, And so by the time that it was time for me to go interview for the job, I had already experienced all of the things that I thought it was going to be like. So, what was it going to be like when I sat at my desk and I could hear the people around me talking, and I could hear the clacking of the keyboards, and when my customers were going to say yes to whatever the proposal was going to be, and what was it going to look like for my family in terms of finances, and what were we going to be able to do different once I had that job that we couldn't do now. And so it's more than just thinking about it though, David. It's really, you have to feel it, you have to hear it, you have to smell it. You really need to be in that moment, and it's what happens at that point is it's now in your subconscious, right? You've kind of experienced it, and it's in your subconscious, and it's activating those ideas that you need in order to reach that goal. And then it helps to program your brain to recognize the resources that you need to tap into in order to get that job. I'm a big believer in the law of attraction. And I think when you start to think about something, it starts to bring people and resources into your life to help you to achieve that goal that you're going for. And then finally, when you've got that vision internally, it just helps to keep you motivated to do the right things to reach that end goal.
All right. So I'm going to be devil's advocate here for a
Yeah.
moment. What you're basically saying is that in order to get the job you wanted, in order to draw the right people to you to make this all a reality, you sat at your old job and fantasized about it.
I mean, you could call it fantasizing. I mean, but I think
Isn't that what you just described? You're smelling it, you're hearing it, you're tasting it. Like it's a fantasy to you in the moment that you're trying to make true. Like I fantasize about, owning a $150,000, sport, supercar or something like that, right? But am I going to draw it to me? And again, I believe in those things, but I'm playing devil's advocate
I
for
don't, I
people that
wouldn't, I mean, will it draw it? I mean, is the house just going to magically appear, and you're going to have it? No, I mean, that's not how it's going to work. But I think it's going to open up your mind to find opportunities to maybe help you to get that house. Maybe it's a side hustle that comes your way, or maybe it's another opportunity for you to make an investment in something that reaps a big return. I think it just makes you more aware of those opportunities because there is a goal that you have in mind to reach. But I mean, there's still things that you have to do in order to reach that goal. You can't just think about it and it's going to happen. It just prepares you to do the things that you need to do to reach that goal.
is exactly what I was trying to get out of you because I've read The Secret, and I've met a lot of people who read The Secret and they believe in The Secret. And then there's the other people who are like, that's just, that's just two fruits and nuts for me, right? You
Right.
can't just think that you're going to get a big check in the mail and then all of a sudden you get a big check in the mail. But the reality is, in my life, I have done that when times were a little bit tight and I'm thinking, money comes easily to me. Money comes easily to me. Money comes easily to me. And then out of nowhere, I get a speaking engagement or something happens. So I'm a believer. I was just, playing the bad guy.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think that's a good point because you still have to do the work. And let me give you another example of where I used visualization to help me reach a goal. That's a little bit where the work had to be put in. So I had reached a point in my life where I'd gained so much weight and I was so unhappy with the way that I looked and the way that I felt. And one day I was sitting on the couch eating some potato chips and a commercial came on for P90X. And I was like, you know what? It's time for me to do something. And so I got online and I ordered the P90X and it was getting shipped to the house. And while it was getting shipped, this is before you could download it digitally, they still had to ship stuff to you. While I was waiting for that to come, I used the power of visualization to put myself in a place where I was thinking about how was I going to feel when I lost 30 pounds? What were other people going to say to me when I lost that weight? What was I going to look like? And I could see it. I mean, it was very clear what that was going to be like. And actually, it ended up being better than I thought it was going to be. But that's a 90-day workout program. You spend 90 days of doing intense workout. And now you got to keep in mind, I had not done any working out in years. And so I went from being on the couch to pushing myself through these plyometrics workouts where you're jumping and you're moving around and you're doing all these things and we're using all these muscles that you've never used before. And so the first day I was like, all right, I can do this. The second day I was like, okay, this is right. By the third day I was so sore I could barely walk. And I was like, man, am I going to be able to do this? But I continued to use that visualization and see what it was going to look like after that 90 days. And that really helped me to get through the days when I didn't want to work out, when the days when I was tired, when I was sore, when it had been a long day, and I was like, I could skip today. But I didn't. I did it every single day. And I actually got to where I was doing 2 times a day because I really wanted to see if I could speed up the results. And at the end of that 90 days, I had lost almost 40 pounds. And like I said, what I had pictured in my head was great because I had reached that, but it was even better than I thought it was going to be.
So we can use the power of visualization to get a new job, a new career. We can use the power of visualization to transform our bodies. What else have you used it for?
Well, I don't want to disclose too much because hasn't happened yet, but an opportunity was presented to make a significant amount of money that would help me, my family, put my kids through college. So I'm still working on that. I don't want to say too much because I'm still visualizing it, but it's going really well so far. So, but I mean, I think those are big goals, right? A job, working out, very long-term type goals. But I've also used it just for short-term goals, like when it's time to do a presentation or when it's, you and I are big theater guys, right? I mean, we've talked about how much we enjoy the theater, how much we being on stage. And so I would use it for when I was getting ready to go out on stage. I wanted to visualize how I was going to, the character was going to play and what the audience reaction was going to be, just so that I could make sure that I put on the best performance that I could. But I wanted to see it before I actually went out and did it. So, I mean, you can use it long term, you can use it short term. It's like Caddyshack. I mean, it's only one putt, but you need to see that ball going into the hole before you tap it. Same thing when I think when I played baseball, when you step into the batter's box, I mean, you need to visualize what pitch is going to come at you and what are you going to do? How are you going to react? And so short-term goals, long-term goals, I think it works for all of them.
I'm glad you mentioned the batter's box. That's actually something that has been successful for Zoe. I know that when her head is in the right place, she plays better. And after a game and she got a great hit or whatever, I'd ask her, like, what were you thinking right before you hit that? And she said, I was imagining the ball going to the outfield, hitting the grass so that I could get a base hit. Like she saw it before she hit it. And I think that visualization is one of those things that people don't leverage enough. It's a tool and we know about it, but it sounds like you use it almost every day. It's like a real part of your existence.
Yeah, I mean, it's important for me. By nature, I'm a pretty lazy person, and I would I'm just lazy, and I would procrastinate and allow things to just build up, and so, in order for me to get things done, I need to visualize what that end result is going to be, and what's that outcome gonna be like? Something as simple as, "I really don't wanna do the dishes," right? But just take a quick moment and think, well, if I do these dishes, my significant other is out doing something and working on something. She's not going to come home to a house that has a sink full of dishes. And what's that going to make her feel like? It's going to make her happy. She's going to be grateful, and that's going to just help to continue to build the bonds of that relationship. And so it's something as simple as take a moment and think about, okay, if I do this, what's the big impact going to be? And it may not be something huge, but I think something like just doing the dishes and putting them away so that somebody else doesn't have to worry about it when they get home is worthy of taking a moment to visualize what that outcome's gonna be.
I love it. Like you're using it for all the big stuff, but you're also using it for all the little stuff. It really is a part of your personality.
Yeah, it's a tool that I use to help combat some of the weaknesses that I have, again, being lazy and procrastinating.
Well, if I might jump in on your lesson and add my own take, there's a
Yeah.
little practice that we do at my house that involves visualization. It's mostly to help us to change our moods or overcome anxiety. It's one of those things that if my daughter wakes up in the middle of the night with a bad dream, or if we're struggling with something, we play what we call the perfect day. And what we do, Mike, is we actually imagine ourselves and fantasize or visualize. That is a tough one.
It
Vis-
is.
Visualize that perfect day. And it starts with I woke up, and then you describe your surroundings. Like, is it your own bed in your own house, or are you in this beautiful bungalow on the beach in Key West, right? And then we talk about everything from what clothes we put on to what we smell when we come down the stairs, what we eat, what we do with our morning, where we go, what we do. Like Zoe will imagine a day in Chicago where she'll go see Hamilton with her best friend, or I might be in the mountains in Colorado with my Jeep. My wife is going to be at Universal Studios having a butterbeer. Like we all have these perfect days, right? That we are imagining. And I got to tell you that sometimes those days come true. But even if they don't, in that moment, boy, every ounce of anxiety or nerves or unhappiness that you were feeling, it just kind of goes away because you're really tricking your mind. Even though you're just thinking about it, your mind thinks it's actually happening, and
Yeah, absolutely.
it literally changes your mood. This perfect day strategy has been something that I've used for many years and have used successfully to overcome, negative days, anxiety, all those things.
Yeah, a lot of times, when I go to bed, my mind is typically racing. I mean, there's just a lot of you think about the day, the things that have happened, the things that are coming up, and it's a challenge to fall asleep sometimes when you have all of those thoughts running through. And so what I like to do is I like to stop and do like you do and visualize what's tomorrow going to be like. What is that day going to be look like? Or visualize, if there's a goal that I'm working on. And focus on the positive outcome and the positive things that I can do to reach that goal. And it does calm you. It calms your mind. And usually I typically drift off to sleep thinking about whatever it is that positive, that perfect day. Like you said, I would love to go to see Hamilton with Chloe and Zoe in Chicago. Got those mixed up. But yeah, that's such a great tip. And the flip side of it is, and I think so I really think that just we all have it inside of us. It's kind of instinctual to do that visualization. And I just remember when my daughter was about 8, she had this vision of how the day was going to go. She had everything planned out, and it was just going to be this perfect day with her friends and water balloon fights. And it didn't happen. Sometimes you visualize and you visualize the way things are going to happen, and it doesn't happen. And it can be frustrating. But I think learning to deal with, listen, I visualized it and it didn't turn out the way that I did, but what can I do to rebound and get back to that? So I don't want everyone to think, well, if I use this visualization technique, I'm always going to reach my goals. I'm always going to be successful. Listen, I've had a lot of visions that didn't come to fruition for one reason or another, but it didn't deter me from using the tool because long term, most of the time, you should be able to reach that goal, even with setbacks, even if it didn't go the way you saw it, you can still get there.
And honestly, Mike, even if you never experience that perfect day, the visualization of it, the act of doing it will make you feel better in that moment. At the very least, that's a benefit of it.
Very true. Very true.
Awesome. Well, do you have any challenges for the listeners? Any advice on how to visualize or what they should visualize?
Yeah. So, I think it'll be a little bit different for everybody and the way that they do it. I've got a friend that uses meditation to visualize, and and I'm someone to steal his story. He's my podcast host, Rob. He started he wanted to do some meditation to kind of focus on his goals and what he wanted to do. And he just started small, 5 minutes a day. And now he was up to 10 minutes. I think he's up to 20 minutes a day now, where he takes that 20 minutes, clears his mind. And so you can do it that way. For me, though, the way that I do it, I like to just get out and go for a walk. Preferably, I'd like to be on a beach somewhere walking and thinking about it, but I live in Arkansas and there's not a lot of beaches around here. So sometimes you just got to walk around the neighborhood or drive around the neighborhood and I just focus on that goal. And I just let my mind do the work of, okay, what's it going to be like when I get there? What's it going to sound like? What's it going to smell like? And I just let my mind do the work. And because I'm walking, I can do that, right? I kind of just block out everything else other than cars so I don't get run over, but I let my mind do the work. And sometimes it's a 20-minute walk, sometimes it's a 5-minute walk, but it starts the process. But you can't just do it one time. You have to continually come back and reinforce what it was that you visualized the first time to help keep you moving forward, especially on those long-term goals. Getting a job, losing weight, buying $130,000 house. It may take you a little while, or was it 130, 230? What'd you say it was? 1.3 million? I forgot.
I actually was talking about $150,000 supercar.
Okay, there you go. Not because I was like, wow, $130,000 house. You're not going to get too much these days for 130, but $150,000 supercar. Yes.
Well, my son would say that's not a supercar, but that's he's a big fan of the $3 million Bugattis and things like this, and he
Yeah.
visualizes that all the time. He has me convinced that he will own a car like that one day. He may not have a house to live in, but
he's got the vision, though, right? He's got the vision. So let me ask you this, David. I want to turn this on you a little bit. I'm going to flip flop and ask you. So
this is what happens when you invite podcast hosts to be your podcast guest.
that's right. So talk to me about your book. I mean, the first book that you written, right? DJ's Off-Road Adventures. I mean, did you use the power of visualization to see what that book was going to look like before it actually came to fruition?
Honest to God, I didn't even know I was going to write a children's book, Mike.
Really?
I went to Moab in my Jeep with some friends. It was my first really, truly off-road adventure, and I had a major panic attack. Like, I flipped out. I could not go forward. I couldn't go back. I was on this mountainside, not mountain, but this, what they're called fins. They kind of stick up out of the desert, right? And it was a 70-foot drop on the left and a 70-foot drop on the right. And I had about 12 feet to drive over. And it wasn't smooth. Like, the Jeep's like tilting a lot. So I had this major panic attack. And my friends like literally got out of their own Jeeps, came up and talked to me and kind of, talked me off the ledge. Not literally, thank God, but
Right.
So, and then, throughout the day, I got a little braver and just, I had the best time. And when I got home, it's kind of like backwards visualization, I guess, but I was thinking about what happened and how I overcame it. And I was re-experiencing it through some of the video footage that we got. And I thought, man, this would be a good story to tell, because I had been telling the story to all my friends. And then I'm not sure how it came about that it turned into the Jeep being the character of me, but that's how DJ came to fruition.
That's so great. That's really cool.
Thanks for asking. I love to talk about that story.
I just love the book. I love the story. I love the message that it carries, and hopefully, kids that are getting it. I was glad to be a part of your little drive there to donate it to. Was it to the Children's Hospital, right?
Yeah, we donated 120 books.
That's awesome. That's so
Yeah.
great. You got a lot of friends. That's good. You're a
It's
pretty popular
nice.
guy.
I don't know about that. I will tell you this. As soon as it came out in print, I was already thinking about a sequel. Like
Yeah.
I was like, I got to do a second book. I even called it DJ's Off-Road Adventures, right? So there has to be another one.
Yeah.
And that one I did really visualize holding the second book, and like I imagined myself going on another trip and being inspired by true events to write a second book. And that's actually what's happening right now. I'm on page 5 or something like that with the artist.
See, I knew there was some visualization in there. I knew it. I knew we'd pull it out of you.
Either that or we just really made this work.
Yes, we got there. We took the long route, but we got there.
All righty. Well, we are coming up on our time limit. Not that we have a limit, but I find that people, 20, 25 minutes, people are like ready to do it.
You get me at 30 minutes and I'm like, all right, I got to go. And there's some really long podcasts out there that, I love to listen to, but I have to listen to them in increments of 30 minutes because after about 30, I'm like, all right, time for something new.
Well, how about this? If someone wanted to get in contact with you, how would they do that? And why don't you tell them a little bit about your podcast?
Yeah, so they can reach me on Facebook. I'm on LinkedIn, and then my podcast is called the Bowtie Sales Guys, and we are on Facebook. You can find it on iPod, the iTunes store, in their podcasts. So I think we're on Spotify, but yeah, we spend about 25 to 30 minutes every week talking about sales and trying to help salespeople to progress forward in their career. We love to give, we talk a lot. We do a lot of storytelling and just sharing our battle stories, if you will, in the sales industry. But at the end of the podcast, we always like to end with something that the listener can do today to help improve in their craft of selling. And so, yeah, you can find us, like I said, at Facebook or all the places where you get your podcast.
All right. Well, I can't thank you enough for joining me today. So I wish you the best of luck with your podcast and all your visualizations, especially this big one that might bring you a bunch of money. Good luck with that.
I'll let you know. When you
All
see me
right.
flying around in my private jet, you'll be like, oh, Mike, it worked.
Well, good luck to you, my friend.
Thanks, David. I appreciate it. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Let's be honest for a moment, gang. Visualization is not a new concept, not by a long shot. So was there a big takeaway to be gained from this episode? Was there an aha moment? For me, it was how often Mike uses visualization for the little things and the big things. It's literally a part of his daily routine, like brushing his teeth. I got the feeling that at any moment, Mike could be visualizing a future that he wants to come to fruition, and because he's so practiced at it, he makes it a reality. Sure, not always, but clearly often enough that it has proven its value in his life. And so I challenge you, write visualization on your... You know what? Don't. The word visualization is too long to write on your wrist. So just draw a couple of eyes on your wrist, like a little cartoon eyes. You can even put a little smiley face on there if you want. Use a Sharpie and wear that on your wrist for a couple of days. And every time you glance at it, take a couple of moments and visualize something you want. Now, it can be something simple like a clean house. It could be financial, like a surprise check in the mail or a promotion. It can be a big, fat, hairy goal like a dream vacation or a new car. It can be whatever you want it to be. But try getting into the habit of using visualization and let's see what happens. In fact, let me know what happens when you implement this lesson by using the hashtag EverydayLessonsEveryday or by reaching out to me personally at everydaylessonseveryday.com. You can also purchase my book while you're there or learn about hiring me to speak about personal improvement at your upcoming event. If you like the stories brought to you by Everyday Lessons Everyday, please consider writing a review. And also, please share this podcast with your friends. Let's see if together we can get the word out and maybe even make the world a better place. I'll see you next time. Now go out there and do something awesome.